because over the last couple of days, I saw some people that are Texas fans that were talking some really crazy nonsense about the SEC and how Georgia's conference is, or Georgia's scheduling is weak. Well, Georgia, if you remember, if I'm not mistaken, Georgia was supposed to play Oklahoma, okay, in the first game of the year. You know how they do the neutral site stuff and all that kind of stuff. Benjamin. Okay, my son's banging on the door because he's like, Texas sucks, okay? Anyway, well, the SEC told Georgia, you can't play them because you're going to be playing them in 20. Like, don't do that. Wait till they get in conference. Now, I'm going to share something with you, and just to give you an idea, so to the Texas fans who continue to talk about the SEC being weak, okay, since 2012, since the Big 12 was restructured and we had conference realignment, okay, Texas is 78-60, Joe, in college football. Since the SEC is so weak, here are some teams that are better or equivalent from a records perspective than they are. Bama, Georgia, LSU, the biggest one of all of them. Texas A&M is even better than you. Texas A&M over the last since 2012, 90-48. Florida, here's another one that's I can't believe this. Mississippi State has a better overall record than you do in a better conference. Auburn and your Ole Miss. So to Texas fans, for me, Joe, it's like LSU to some extent outside of the money enters Ole Miss. Ole Miss is entering the SEC in 25. Okay, it's not a game. So you can talk all you want to about all this stuff about, oh, we're going to start getting better recruits and we're going to start doing better things in recruiting and we're going to do some good things in the SEC. Bro, Joe, they've been 70-68 or 70-58 since they been in the, since 2012. A&M is a better overall football team and a better overall football program, even with last year included, than the University of Texas.
Look, there's been a massive hangover. Absolutely has been the biggest hangover in college football since they were last good. Absolutely. Now, I understand the sentiment. I totally agree with the sentiment that they have stunk and they've been horribly embarrassing to watch. But they're moving on to the SEC. They hired a coach from the SEC in Steve Sarkisian to lead this program. I got to say, I think that there's a lot of promise for this Texas team. And I said this when we were in the Twitter spaces during the national championship game. They're finishing with top 5 recruiting classes. And they're going to keep doing
finishing with top 5 recruiting classes.
But I think that there's been more of an actualization of that talent than there has ever been under any other
showing
coach.
up?
Well, Sark's only been there for 2 years. I think that the
Ryan
way that
Cook's only been there for 1.
I think that the way that they played against Alabama is proof that they are moving in the right direction. Defensively, they look really good, but they're inconsistent. They're very inconsistent. To try and pivot from what Tom Herman did and the guys that were there that were not a part of the Steve Sarkisian culture, to try and pivot like that is going to take time. And what Brian Kelly did is on a different level. I don't think we should be comparing those two.
But why not?
Because Brian Kelly was a longtime head coach at another big program and needed to be in a situation with less limitations.
A conference that's better than the Big 12.
Yeah, and again, his results are extremely impressive, but I think Steve Sarkisian has had a very bumpy road and has not been a head coach for a period of time until recently, and it is going to take time for him to turn things around. For him to get the guys that he got in this last recruiting class, I think, again, it's very promising. Anthony Hill, Arch Manning are just some of the big name guys. There's so many 5-star recruits that they added to this group, and I think in 2 years, when do they make that pivot to the SEC? Is it 2 years?
2025. Yeah, 2025.
So when they make that pivot and those guys are juniors, I think that there is a legitimate chance that they are going to be competing for not an SEC championship, but at least for the top of the conference. I don't think that they're going to show up and get dog walked. I don't think that they're going to show up and get their asses kicked.
They're going to get dog walked. You know how I know that they're going to get dog walked? Well, let me not say that. Let me not say that they're going to get dog walked. Let me say this. Can you prove it in the Big 12 first? Because if you can't prove it there in 2 years, Joe, the problem that I have is I continue to hear your same argument every single year. Every single year, it's the same exact argument.
Yeah.
And it never goes into fruition. the problem that Texas fans have is we only lost to 1 by Bama. Well, then the following week you would go ahead and lose to Texas Tech. You can't do that. The inconsistencies, I understand it and I get it, but at some point you got to win those games. I don't think Texas has I don't want to say that they have a talent issue. I kind of think that they have a hiring issue. Okay. Sarkisian has no excuses with the transfer portal now. Okay. When you got Sonny Dykes winning your conference and going to a natty, brother, what's the difference between Sonny Dykes going to a national championship and Texas not getting there?
Sonny Dykes is a better coach. He's significantly a better coach. Here's the one thing that
this is gonna go viral.
Why? Because I'm saying that Sonny Dykes is the better coach than Steve Sarkisian. I don't think that should be a controversial. He got a team that didn't belong sniffing a national championship to a national championship.
Ruh-roh.
The one thing that I will say that I will relent in my argument is that I totally agree with you. If Texas does not win the conference next year, I'm changing my stance completely. I am absolutely changing my stance on this debate. I am switching to your stance that I don't have any faith in Texas unless they move on from Sark and they hire somebody else. I mean, heck, somebody even commented this. I wouldn't be shocked if they do fire Sark that Sonny Dykes isn't the man that they hire. I would argue that that's probably extremely likely. So if there's 2 outcomes here, you either hire the better coach in a couple of seasons or Sark gets it together and they end up being a competitive team and they win the Big 12 and then they move on to the SEC and then they're very competitive. Those are the two outcomes here.
I got to be honest. Sonny's not the guy I think they should go after. I think if I'm Texas.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you got to, at some point, you got to have somebody with SEC ties. Okay. Like you got to understand like what the conference, like you can't go up in the last time that you played Georgia as you getting dog walked by 59. Okay. Look, all I'm going to say is I forget the guy who covers Texas, I think for Orange Bloods or wherever he covers the team or for whoever. You can't go 78-60 and say that Georgia faces in a weak schedule and then turn right around and then your conference's best team, the team that beat you to win your conference got beat 65-7. It's not that they're playing a weak schedule. The weak schedule has nothing to do with it. The SEC has more elite teams than you do. Joe, right now, here's the truth, whether you like it or not. If Texas were to play in the SEC last season, this past season, they get to 6 wins and that's it. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's not good. That's not coming in and doing anything. What's going on with these top 5 recruiting classes? I think it might be a coaching issue. Okay.
And Sark's got 1 more year to prove it. He's got another season to prove it. And if those results show up on the field, I think our conversation is going to be very, very different. What if they show up and they win the conference? Like, are you still going to be in that?
If they win the conference, I would say, okay, well then Sarkisian put it all together. Now he's starting to get things rolling. The problem with that is Tom Herman did the same thing and then it started to collapse. Okay. They're going to have some level of consistency in doing all of this. Hey, Texas fans, A&M, let's put it like this. A&M is a better football program than Texas. Texas A&M has a better overall football program than Texas does. Joe, at the end of the day, wins and losses are the only thing that matters. Clip this. Listen to me. Clip it. Make it the first thing you post. Texas A&M since 2012 has been the overall better program than Texas. The numbers don't lie. At the end of the day, wins and losses have to matter. When Texas is 78-60 and A&M is 90-48 and one is in the SEC West, let's call it what it is. The toughest division historically in college football is the SEC West. They're averaging 9 wins a year, 8 to 9 wins a season at that 90 mark. You flip over to the Big 12, Texas is at 78, averaging around 7 wins a season. Maybe. Brother, at the end of the day, A&M has proven to be an overall better program right now in those years. And everybody can say, well, Jimbo's falling apart. Sounds cute. Sounds good. You've been falling apart since 2012 too. Let's not get it twisted.
I think since 2012, Texas A&M, yes, has produced better results, but I think at this current moment in time, there is a lot of structural mismanagement, like the amount of guys that are hopping in the portal.
What's the
a
difference
lot
of
of
going
issues that
5-7 in the SEC versus going 6-6 in the Big 12?
But
A bowl game?
I'm looking less at the on-field results. I'm just talking about, like, right this second, Texas A&M has some serious issues with retaining talent. Texas has not had that same level of issue since Sark was hired. Texas A&M, the amount of stories that have propped up of kids doing stupid stuff off the field and then hopping in the portal is significantly higher than what's going on with this Texas program. So that's why I don't necessarily agree with that take. But yes, the on-field results for Texas A&M have been better. And there have been a lot of bad coaching hires by Texas in that run that have prevented them from succeeding. And again, I think that if Sark either's got one more year to turn this thing around, or at the very least, they're going to be in a better position to hire somebody that will set them up for success. The only reason why I said Sonny Dykes, though, is that while the SEC ties are important, I also think somebody with ties to the state of Texas is also important. You got to know the area. You got to be able to recruit the area. It's a very different, distinct location than recruiting in the Southeast. I think that being able and having a command and the connections in Texas and being able to recruit those guys properly will lead to success down the road.
A&M, Texas.